Welcome everybody to another great episode of Real Life Matters. Please subscribe to the channel and select the bell icon and just and support the guests that come on here today also because they need your support. And of course, I'm DBoss. And anyways, I have somebody here that's very special. We know each other for a long time over the social media, but anyways. With no other with no other ado, I'm going to introduce to you award-winning Poetry Slam champion and Scarborough Walk of Fame inductee. He's a writer, he's an artist, he's a speaker, and he's doing some movie here, a little production, and we're going to talk to him. So with no other further ado, introduce to you Dwayne Morgan.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I tell you, it was a lot here, a lot of stuff you do there.
Yeah, it's been a great life and a great career thus far.
It's been a great. So can you tell everybody where you come from and what's your background?
All right, so I was born in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Family from Jamaica, so I kind of, I'm that first generation born outside of the island. So there's, 1 foot in the old world and 1 foot, in this world. And I just kind of use all of that influence to create and to do all of the things I've been doing with my life.
So you've been to Jamaica?
Many times. I try to go as often as possible. Usually there at least once every 2 years, at least.
Wow. Okay. Well, there's a lot to dissect with you because you're doing so many things. And okay, so tell us how, what inspired you to become a poet?
It's really interesting, and it's a bit of a funny story because it's not something that I ever wanted to do. Those people who know me know I'm very much a shy introvert. I don't like speaking in front of people. I don't like being the center of attention. However, that's what I've been called to do in life. So I've had to get over myself and kind of step into that. So this all started for me when I was in high school, and I was the president of our Black students group. And I decided to put on a talent show, and I got all of my friends who had talent. And as we were getting closer to the talent show, I realized that everybody was going to come and watch all of my friends, and nobody would know that I put it all together. And I had to figure out, well, how can I get in the spotlight with everybody else? When you have no talent, what can you do in a talent show? So I said, all right, well, maybe I'll write a poem because I can't rap, I can't dance, I can't sing. But I said, poem.
You can't dance.
Nah, not in the way that would put me on stage as a dancer.
Oh, okay.
So I said, all right, you know what? Let me try and write a poem. And I wrote a poem, and it went over well, and it changed everything that happened after that.
Wow. So you said that you didn't like to be in the spotlight, so you were shy. So what was it for your first moment when you went on stage and you had to, how was that for you?
Oh, it was absolutely terrifying. It was, and I'm still shy to this day, even though I've been doing it now almost 30 years. It's just, who I am. But it was terrifying to just be up there in front of people. Everybody's kind of looking at you. You're trying to make sure that you remember, the words of the poem and you don't mess it up and stuff. So definitely it was, baptism by fire, as they say, but you just kind of jump in and start making your arms work and hope that you're swimming.
Wow. So you write all your own stuff?
Yes.
So what inspires you to do what you do every day?
Yeah, I mean, I've at this point in my career, I have my 14th book coming out next month in December. I have 9 albums out. So, I write and I create a lot. And, I'm just inspired by being alive. I don't take it for granted that I'm alive. There's nothing that I have personally done to wake myself up any day. I have no idea why I wake up in the morning. God, the universe, whatever sees fit to wake me up. So the simple fact that I'm alive means I have work to do, and means every single day that I'm here on this side of life, I have to look for the stories. I have to try to find what are the things that matter. how can I, inspire somebody else? How can I be of service to humanity? So I think I'm constantly inspired just simply by being alive and being present and not taking anything for granted, whether it's the ability to travel, the ability to, be in a school and talk to a young person, the, ability to just go and meet other people. So all of it is special to me, and that is what inspires me on a daily basis.
So, is anybody else in your family did that you could say you drew that from, or?
Yeah. I'm the only artistic one in the family, so I'm the black sheep of the family. Nobody has any kind of art.
Some good sheep there.
Yeah. No one else has any art talent.
Okay, so this is what you do full time, or do you?
This has been my full-time job ever since I was in high school. So 28 years running right now. We just crossed over 28 years.
So in the industry, so who have you worked with?
So I mean the act of creating and writing is something where, for the most part, it's solo, that you kind of do it by yourself. But I've always taken a very creative approach to my career, and it has allowed me to do things that a lot of people who are writers don't necessarily get to do, because they may just think of themselves as, oh, I'm just a writer, or I just write novels. But I've always seen myself as an entertainer who uses writing as their vehicle. So, as a result of that, I've had the opportunity. I've opened up for Alicia Keys. I've been on stage with Russel Peters, Cardinal, Official. I've worked with Drake. I've opened for Barack Obama. I've just been able to do.
So how was that? Well, what did you do as part of Barack Obama?
I opened up for him. So he came to Toronto in 2020 before the pandemic, and he was at the Metro Convention Center, and I was one of his opening acts. So
what did you say there? What did you do?
It was a poem called "Success Runs in My Race," and it was just looking at generation after generation, how we continue to be successful despite all of the challenges and hurdles that might be present in front of us.
So can you give us a little sample of that, what you said?
Are you? On your mark, get set, and so it begins. On the dark continent of enlightenment, the place from where all history comes. People who were so ahead of their time, they were sending text messages when they only had drums. Out of the starting blocks, we are off to an early lead as world travelers and explorers, sharing our philosophies, creating universities and structures that would make the world stop and wonder before passing the baton on to the relay's next runner in the Caribbean Sea. So that's just the beginning of.
Wow! I guess he didn't know you were going to do that one today, but that's okay.
Well, I had no idea, but good thing.
No idea. Hey, Real Life Matters people, the viewers went, hey, well, DBoss, how come we didn't ask him to say something? And they sent comments to me. So
all right, well, that's good. You covered that base then. But
maybe not the full base yet. But anyways, how was it working with Alicia Keys?
It's one of those things where, when you're just opening up for somebody, we didn't even get to meet. It's just like, well, here's your time. You go on stage, you do your thing, and she's there in her dressing room with her band.
Just passing.
Yeah, and so that's so a lot of times people think that this stuff is so glamorous and stuff, but oftentimes you don't even get to meet the people. So I mean, it was great with Obama that we actually got to meet. So him and I have a picture together and stuff like that. So that was
and you talked to him and everything.
Yep. So that one was real good. Me and him just kind of there. So that was awesome. But a lot of times, with a lot of other things, it's just, everybody just kind of has their time and you just go do your thing and just keep it moving.
So, and you said you opened up for somebody else. Russel Peters.
I shared the stage with Russel Peters, Cardinal, Official, Julie Black, stuff like that. And I mean, before Russell really became an international, hit, I mean, he was big throughout Toronto. And so there was lots of shows that we would both just be in. Now, not so much because he's a huge international star, but on the come up, on the journey to getting to that place, then, we did many shows together.
So what did you do with Cardinal Official?
Again, it's just being on stage, being in the same shows and the same performances. So they book him, they book me. Same thing with Julie Black and all of us like Cardinal,
So
Julie
what did you
Black.
do? Did you do a Caribbean kind of a poetry, or what did you do there?
No, I just stay in my lane and I just do my thing. Like I can't even remember exactly what poems I was performing, but because this stuff has been forever. But we've all known each other since we were young. Since maybe late high school, university time. So I met
Mm-hmm.
Cardinal at York University. I met Julie Black around the same time as I was in
Wait,
university.
Cardinal went to York University?
He did go to York University.
Wow.
So that is where we met, and we all kind of came up at the same time, right? There's just this renaissance of young Black artists. So Cardinal, Julie Black, Glenn Lewis, all of these people, we all kind of came up at the same time, and we were all just in our own lane doing our own thing.
So when you get ready for wanting to do one of these shows, what do you do?
Well, I mean, the first thing is, once I know how much time I have to figure out, all right, what are the poems that I feel like sharing? What are the things that I want to speak about? And then I think about what is the experience that I want the audience to have, and because that also helps me to inform, what poems I'm going to do and what order to put things in, so that I can be very mindful of the emotional roller coaster that I bring the audience on during my performance. And then after
Mhm.
that, it's really just a matter of, rehearsing and practicing and trying to make sure that I have it down and I have it right and I know what's going
So
to
you
happen.
stand in front of a mirror?
Yep. In front of the mirror for hours, and the mirror is my audience, and I just go and go and go and try to practice it, try to say, hey, what if I said the poem this way, or what if I changed something at this part, or you just play with it. And a lot of times people say, oh, it's poetry, so you just get up there and say the poem. But I
Mm.
think a big part of my success is the fact that I actually rehearse, that I actually put a lot of time in that nobody sees and nobody knows about, so that when you actually see me on stage, it's I can shine brighter than many other people who just say, oh, I'm just going to share a poem.
Well, they know now that you're putting the work in.
Well, yes, that is true.
They
The cat
know
is
now
out
that
the
you're
bag.
putting the work behind, because sometimes you just wonder that you just get up on stage and just go do that. People, like, I know you have to prepare
Mhm.
yourself for when you're going to do that. So did you take school for this, or you just?
I never went to school for it. It was just something that just kind of came natural to me once I discovered that it existed, and once I discovered that I had talent. It just kind of came naturally to me, and I've always been very self-reflective and self-critical. So I'm always asking, okay, what can I do better? How can I get better at this thing? How can I do things differently? So I've never really been one who's been satisfied with where I'm at, because I always believe that, all right, now there's what's the next level, what's the next thing to do, the next thing to try. And I think that allows me to to stay sharp, to stay relevant, to to craft stories that actually resonate with people. And yeah, so I think it's just really been something that has been innate within me that I didn't know that it was there. And through stepping into this arena, I've learned and discovered things about myself that maybe otherwise I never would have known about.
It's like what? What did you discover about yourself?
Um,
We already know you're shy.
yeah, so there's that. But I mean, I think when I talk about discovering things about myself, it's like that. You have thoughts that matter, that you have perspectives on the world that matter, that you have talent that matters. And I think, especially when you're a shy, quiet person, one of the things that we often do is we say, well, I'm not going to speak up because nobody really cares what I have to say. And yeah, what I say really doesn't matter. And we say those things to ourselves to justify not speaking. But once I started to speak, I realized, oh, you know what? The things that you're saying matter. People care about this. And it allowed me to really see that I had value as a human being, and
Mhm.
that I was actually doing something and giving something of value to the world, to my community, to wherever I was. And I think those are the things that I've discovered about myself through stepping into this world.
Wow. So you must have been good at English in your class and poetry writing and communications.
Yeah, I was always good at English, but at the same time, I had no idea that I was good enough to do something with it. And
Okay.
and I also didn't know what could I do with it, because nobody thinks, oh, I'm going to go to school and study English. It's like, that doesn't even make sense. I don't even know what I would do. I didn't want to be an English teacher or anything like
Major.
that. So, even when I went to York University, my degrees are in mass communications and sociology. I didn't do English.
Oh,
I didn't do performance. I didn't do any of that stuff. This was always just something that was happening outside of education. And yeah, I think while I was great at English, I think that has helped me. I probably would have stopped doing this if I pursued English. I probably would have lost the love for it. So I think it's maybe a good
mm,
thing that I didn't follow through and study English, because then I would just be so immersed in that by this point I'd probably be over it. So I think it's maybe a good thing
I don't
that I
think
didn't
so.
go and study English.
I don't think so. But this is your path. I don't think you'd be over it, you know. But do you write this? Do certain artists and different people, since you do like spoken word, do they ask you to write stuff for them? Different,
Um, Yeah, I mean,
or you
there's
don't
been
do it?
people that I've worked with. There's people who ask me for help, like with songwriting. There's people who want stuff, for a video or for a movie or for a commercial or for whatever. And one of the things that I've discovered is that when you're good at writing and being able to tell stories, there are so many applications for that. So even though my main thing is poetry, just the ability to write and tell stories means I can do stuff in advertising, and I can do stuff in film, and I can do stuff with music. I don't have to stay limited in this box of, oh, you just write
You
poetry.
just do. You're just the spoken word, and that's it.
Right. And we live in this world where a lot of times people want to put people just in these boxes, and I've always
Mhm.
tried my best to be outside of all of the boxes as possible, because I understand how limiting that can be to how we see ourselves. So, as much freedom as I have from those boxes, it really allows me to imagine and to create whatever it is that I want to create.
So how do you differentiate? Now, somebody asks you to write something for them, and then you might say, maybe I should use this for one of my my poetry.
Mhm.
So how do you decide? Like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm going to use this one. I think I'm going to use this for myself.
Right. I mean, I luckily that hasn't happened too many times.
Too many times,
But
but it's happened.
it's happened once or twice. But it really comes down to, are they paying? Because if they're
Oh,
paying, then I can let it go, right? If they're paying, I'd be like, okay, you know what? I can part with this. If it's not a paid situation, then if I can use it for myself and probably make more money off of it, then I would use it for myself and I'd create something else for them. So I think it really, as an artist, I've always been also very much into the business side of art. I think that's also
mhm.
why I've been able to have such a long career simply just doing poetry and writing. Because people ask me all the time, how on earth do you live for almost 30 years just off of poems? And I think, from very early, I understood the importance of the business side. So,
Monetizing it.
yeah, you have to be able to monetize and realize that your talent, your time has value. So I think, in a situation like that where I'm creating something and I'm like, oh, this is really good, I could use this. The deciding factor is, am I getting paid or not? And we
So
kind of
the
go from there.
fees, are the fees reasonable, or depends, or you just have a standard fee, or depends if you have to, so how do you go about, like, to tell people, oh, this price for that?
I think that I try to negotiate with everybody. I don't have
Hmm.
set fees. I like to know, what is it? What is the scope, of it?
Hmm.
Because sometimes there are things that you can get that aren't necessarily monetary, right? And
Hmm.
sometimes it might be, somebody's showing a film and maybe you have a little commercial trailer in it or something. You know, there's
Oh,
all
okay.
these different
Like a
things
barter.
that can happen, right? So it isn't always about, you know, dollars and cents, but it's like how many people are going to see this? What is the reach of it? You know, all of these kinds of things, and you factor all of that in. You know, is this coming out of your pocket, or are there people financing, you know, this thing? And once you kind of have all of those factors, I like to just work with everybody on an individual basis and say, all right, this is what I think would be fair. And you can always come back to me and say, okay, can we do this or that? But yeah, it's definitely not a set fee. I try to work with everybody on an individual basis.
Okay, because you live off of this. This is what you do every day that you live off. So you obviously, it's come to the point that yes, I can live off of this. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah, and you know, and sometimes, you know, people want you to feel guilty that you're charging for what you do, and I'm like, this
Excuse
is
me.
this is how my daughter eats. This is how my bills get paid. Like you don't
Think
get
you
up
live
in the
on
morning.
air.
Yeah, you don't get up in the morning and go to work, and your boss says, "Yeah, I'm not going to pay you today." You would just go back home.
You go
But
back. You would leave immediately.
yeah, but you feel no ways reaching out to me with this expectation that I should go to work for free. And no, that's just not how it's going to work. So, you know, I had to learn to value what it is that I do, value the talent that I have. And, you know, there's so many accolades in my bio and stuff that I've done that I know I deserve the money. I'm worth the money. So it's not even like, you know, I'm trying to be unfair and stuff. I'm very reasonable with everybody, but at the same time, there's no value in things that people get for free. So I have to make sure that I always remind myself that I am valuable.
Yeah, you have value.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so you've worked with. Okay, so you go to the U.S. or do you go to Europe and stuff? Have you been over there?
Yep. So at this point, I've performed in 18 countries internationally. So I mean, then Canada, the States, Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, Bermuda, England, Ireland, Scotland, Budapest, France, Germany, Spain, South Africa, Turkey, Ghana. So still looking to add some more places on there. So if you're
So which
watching,
place did you like the best when you went? A couple, the top
well,
three.
I mean, I'm always partial to Jamaica, so that
Okay, we will exclude
yeah,
that one since you're
yeah.
from
So
there.
take it from there, then it has to be somewhere between Ghana and South Africa. So
And
somewhere,
what'd you like about there?
I mean, South Africa was cool because it was my first time in Africa, and that was my first time
Wow.
touching down on the continent of Africa. And I actually brought a group of people from Toronto with me. I actually just put it out on Facebook and said, "Hey, I'm planning to go to South Africa. Does anybody want to come?" And
Does anybody want to come? You just,
well, they had to pay their way to get
of
there.
course. Well, obviously.
And I
But
had
you know what I mean?
a tour operator who was going to be a part of it. So I said, I'm going to go for 2 weeks. We're going to do a week in Johannesburg, a week in Cape Town. And does anybody want to come? And 14 people signed up and said that they're going to come.
Wow.
So we went for 2 weeks, and it was absolutely amazing, an amazing time. And we filmed a documentary called my goodness, it slips me at the moment, but a gentleman by the name of called Memento. It's called Memento. And
Memento.
Memento.
I was like, well, geez, you went down there. I guess you were so overtaken with everything that
Right, but yeah, so just in the last year or so, it's been in a number of film festivals and stuff like that, and it was just looking at that trip that we did to South Africa, and so many people who were just touching down in Africa for the first time. And then
so what
Ghana.
was the memento about that you did when you filmed down there, the documentary?
Yeah, so it was just really just documenting what it was like for people who have never been to Africa to actually go to Africa. And it just looked at all the stuff that we did over the 2 weeks, and the things we learned and conversations that we had with people to learn more about how the people live, and kind of compare that with what we thought and how we lived. And then when I went to Ghana, Ghana is the only country that I've ever been to that, as soon as I walked out of the airport, it felt like I'd been there before, even though I knew it was my first time there. And it's the only place, I've been to that felt almost identical to Jamaica. And, we spoke about it before, and I've been to Jamaica so many times that nowhere else, like even when I go to Trinidad feels nothing like Jamaica. Ghana
No.
feels like Jamaica. So, when people talk about, a lot of the slave trade and a lot of people who ended up in Jamaica probably coming from Ghana, it makes a lot of sense because, people would just look at me and speak to me in their native tongue. And I'm like, hey, I'm not even from here. I look like from there, right? And it's the same kind of vibe as that you would see in Jamaica. Everything is like so identical to how you would experience it in Jamaica. So it was a real surreal experience being there in Ghana and going through that.
Wow. So how do you feel about, you keep winning all these Portuguese Slam champions? How did you feel with that?
I mean, it's great to win. I mean, I've lost more than I won, and I think that's always the thing that's really important. Especially when I do a lot of work with young people and stuff, and people always harp on the fact that I've won, but I always tell them how many times I've lost. I think for the national championship, I think I came in second place maybe 5 times, and I've won it twice. And I think, that's all part of the journey, though. You don't appreciate the winning without losing, without the bitterness of loss, without getting so close and not getting there. That's what drives you to keep trying to get, better and improve and that sort of thing. So I think, winning that on multiple occasions has been, a great experience for me because it really, forces me to kind of dig deep in terms of what do I want to say and really pay attention to, how I'm using words and how I'm using ideas and images and how I'm performing to try to get the best possible results. So I think it's definitely a blessing. It's not lost on me that I've had these successes, but, all of those successes are valuable because of how many times I've lost.
Right. And so what about the Scarborough? You becoming a inductee for the Scarborough Walk of Fame,
That was another one that was pretty surreal. I couldn't even, believe it when it was happening. And, that was back, even hard to believe, that was 2013. And it still feels like, yesterday when that happened. And, growing up in Scarborough, there weren't really a lot of outlets for me to get on stage, for me to perform my work. So to have the city recognize me for my efforts and recognize the things that I had done to try to create space, to try to promote the arts, to try to inspire young people was such a humbling experience. And now, when I go, the Walk of Fame is inside the Scarborough Town Center shopping mall. And now when I go there, and even when I go there with my daughter, there's a star in the ground that has my name on it. So even when you talk about, legacy and even when I pass away physically, that star is still going to be there. People are going to be like, who was this Dwayne Morgan guy? And they can go and they can look it up. So it really was a reminder of the fact that the work that I do has value. And even when I don't see it, there's people who are watching it and extracting value from it. Because sometimes, we don't know if what we do matters to anybody. We're just kind of here doing all of this stuff. And then the odd time an accolade might come, or someone might send you an email, or, somebody might leave a comment on one of your episodes. And that one comment makes your entire day. It makes you say, you know what? I'm actually doing something good here and I need to keep doing it, because while I might feel bad, this person, it means the world to them. And you just keep going and moving forward. And I think it's such a great reminder to me of how important the work that I do is.
Right. So you producing and writing When Brothers Speak.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you come up with that?
All right. So When Brothers Speak is a show that I've been producing now for 22 years. So this is the 22nd edition of this show.
The 22nd edition.
Yep. I've been doing this for a minute, since 1999. And so to give you the backstory of how it all happened.
Yes, I want to hear it.
is that I received an email about a poetry slam competition that was going on in Philadelphia. And this was probably back in 1998. And at the time, I had no idea what a poetry slam competition was. And I've always been a very curious person. So I decided I was going to drive to Philadelphia to find out. So I suppose I could have responded back to the email and said, hey, what is this? How does it work? But I wanted to go and see it for myself. So I borrowed my mom's car because at that time, I think I was just out of high school. I didn't even have my own car, nothing. Drove to Philadelphia, and I saw so many amazing artists. And I was like, wow, people in Toronto have no idea that this even exists. So then when I came back, I said to myself, well, how can I get some of these people here? So I decided to create a show called When Brothers Speak that would have Black men from Canada and the USA perform together so that people could hear about the experiences of Black men from Black men. So in 1999, I did the first one. 400 people showed up. And I was like,
400 people?
Yeah, 400 people came out to listen to poetry.
So where did you have it at? A club or some kind of place?
It was in a club called the Comfort Zone at the corner of Spadina and College Street in Toronto. Oh. And then over the years, it grew to the point that we were hosting the show at the St. Lawrence Center for the Arts at the 500-seat theater, and we would sell out the theater every year. There were years where we had to do 2 nights, that we would sell out the first night and had to add a second show because that many people.
How much did you charge you the admission they're going there?
I mean, it ranges from anywhere between like $25 and $60, depending on
where you're seated, where you're going to be seated. Okay.
Yeah, depending on where people sat. So it became one of those things where, you know, people, especially in the Black community, they look forward to it every year. The ladies went and got their hair done. The book clubs came out. The guys dressed up. Everything. You know, it was like date night kind of vibe. And then when COVID hit, we had to switch it up a bit because we couldn't do it in person. So this is the second year that we've had to do the show virtually. Okay. So it kind of sucks that we're not in the theater, but the good part is, I mean, you were telling me that, you know, your show is viewed in 22 different countries. Mm-hmm. And the beauty is, no matter where people are, as long as they have the internet, they can buy a ticket and they can watch the show because it's going to be streamed over the internet, right? So the beauty of it
and
now,
you can tag my page too on it. So
yeah, absolutely,
so people can get your ticket and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So the tickets are selling. The show is November 27th, so it's coming up real quick. We have another.
Jeez, that's next week, isn't it? Next week. Another
8 days or so. We got Ontario's first poet laureate, Randella J, who's going to be performing on that. I'm performing on that. We have a brother named Patrick Walters. He's originally from St. Kitts, but he lives in Toronto now. He's performing. A brother from Hamilton called Eddie Lardy, who's performing. A brother from Las Vegas called Obi West, who's going to be performing. And it's all about listening to Black men speak about whatever they want to share. And I think.
So, do you have a theme or not really a theme? They just can talk about whatever.
They all of it is through poetry, so it all has to be done through poetry. But there is no theme other than these are the thoughts of Black men, and that is the main theme. So people come, and a lot of times they say, "Well, we don't really hear from Black men. We hear from Black women all the time, but the Black men are silent."
Maybe not. I think men are speaking up a little bit more. I'm doing. You don't hear from Black men. You hear from. Go on Facebook. You're gonna hear from them all.
So this is the show where people know. All right, I'm just gonna come here and I'm gonna listen to what these guys have to say. And yeah, you know what? I am blessed that for 22 years people have been supporting this.
So how long's the show for? 2 hours?
Yeah, it's about a 2-hour show that we put on every year.
So you already have your theme set up, what you're going to speak and talk about? Probably.
Yeah, everything is set, done, ready to go. So it's for me, I'm the only artist who performs in it every year because, well, it's my show, so that's
It's
one of
your
the perks
show,
that I
obviously.
get, right? So, so every year I try to like debut some stuff that people haven't heard before. So, it's always great and always a challenge because I'm busy trying to produce the show, but then I'm still trying to learn new material and write new material and stuff like that. So but yeah, at the end of the day, you're just grateful that people want to listen, and people see the value in what it is that you're doing, and what it is that you're offering to people.
So what, putting a show like that together wasn't until, do you have artists that are singing? I know it's everybody's doing, men are doing poetry, but do you have other acts other than that, or is it just completely just
It
poetry?
is
That's all. That's it.
100% poetry. We do not add
Wow.
anything to it. It is poetry
Raw,
by Black
unplugged.
men, raw, uncensored, period. The end. So, we don't try to confuse it. We don't try to, add a whole bunch of other things to it. We want people to know this is exactly what it is. Black men speaking, the end. And that's all
The
you're
only
going to
thing
get.
is that you give the artist a certain amount of time.
Yes. So each artist has 20 minutes. So, and in that 20 minutes, you talk about whatever you want to talk about in your time.
And you wear what you had to wear, and that's it.
That is it. Yep. Totally raw, uncensored. I don't know what people are going to talk about, but you have
you
your
don't
time.
know? You just tell them that you're giving them 20 minutes and that they don't have to
Yes.
send something in?
They don't know. No. It's like I handpick all the artists based on who they are, based on my knowledge of their work, but then they get to choose, what am I going to do with my 20 minutes? What am I going to speak about? So they don't have to share that with me, but so when I speak about it being raw and uncensored, it's raw and uncensored because I don't know either what they're going to talk about. But
what happens if people go over their time? Do you kind of poke them off?
Yes, that has happened on several occasions.
Look, it's your time to come off now.
Yeah, because you know what? It's one of those things where, I always talk to artists before the show, and I said, reminder, and everybody gets the reminders. This is how much time you have. This is how much time you have. So to me, when you go over the time, it's like a disrespectful thing to me and a disrespectful thing to the other artists on the show. Because, when we were doing the show in the theater, we had to be done at a certain time because, everybody's there is getting paid. And I'm like, when somebody decides to start going over time, it's like, Virgin, like, what is happening here? This is timed out in such a way that we get done the show at a certain time. This is the professional way to do it. If you're loving the crowd, win them over and then leave them.
And then come off.
Yeah. Leave them anymore and come off. Do your time, come off. Because then what happens is that the person at the end sometimes has to shorten their time just to make sure that we can get done on time. And that's not fair to that other artist because you decided you want.
Well, that's a good amount of time that you give them, though. 20 minutes. Well,
yeah, 20 minutes is a fair amount of time.
That's a good. It's not like it's 10 minutes or something.
And your work and stuff. So yeah, so there have definitely been times where I had to come in and pull people off the show. I never liked to do it.
So what do? You just walk up to them and tap their shoulder and say, "Hey."
Usually, yeah.
Or you have a poker stick.
Well, you know what? I don't like to do it because it's embarrassing.
I know, but people some people just don't get it though,
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's like, well, I have no choice here. I have to do it. You've made me do this because you knew how much time you had and you've gone over it. So yeah, it's not something that I like to do, but I've definitely had to do it on occasion.
But that's a part of producing, you know what I mean? The people, you got to be the good cop, bad cop. Time.
Well, I mean, one of the other things that I started to do, which also works, is the contract that I have with the artist is for 20 minutes. And then I put in the contract that the amount that you are getting paid decreases after 20 minutes. Now, when you start hitting people in the wallet, they're like, 19 minutes? All right. I'm good.
My money's going down.
Exactly. So when they realize that in this contract, it says you get this amount for 20 minutes or less, Now you start getting less. Once you go over 20 minutes, most people suddenly find a way to regulate themselves
Well,
and make
that's
sure
a
that they
smart
don't
thing to
go
put in
over.
that contract. Maybe some people should put that in.
It works.
Well,
It
after doing
definitely
these
works.
22 shows and 21 shows, you got to know,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You
oh,
learn as you go.
my money will be deducted. Dwayne Morgan said, you will get deducted if you go over 20 minutes. Hear me? And I don't want to hear nothing. Oh, and it's in the paper.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've been at things and I hear poets laugh and they're just like, oh, you got to talk to Dwayne because Dwayne is like straight. Like I have the reputation that everybody knows now. Do not mess around in any of my shows because you will get docked money, stuff like. I take this stuff very serious. So I have that reputation in the world of poetry now.
Well, I guess you would.
Yeah.
So what would you advise somebody if they wanted to come in the industry that you're in?
I think the first thing you have to do is find your voice and find the things that you're passionate about, the things that you want to talk about. A lot of times, people might listen to my work or they see a bunch of stuff on YouTube and they say, oh, I like that. And they watch it so many times that when they start to write, everything that they write sounds like this thing that they've been watching. And I think it's really important to just find your own voice, find your own flair.
Be authentic.
Yes, your authenticity, what makes you unique. And that's the starting point. And then from there, it's to fall in love with learning. How much can I learn about this thing that I'm doing? And once you fall in love with the learning, then the next thing I always say to people is then ask yourself, what can I give to it? Because a lot of times we get into things for what we can get from it. But you also want to make sure that you're giving something to it because all of these things that we do are going to outlive us. When I'm no longer here, people are still going to be writing poems. But what did I do to make it easier for that next generation that's coming after me? What did I give to it? So as much as I've received, I always want to make sure that I'm also giving so that other people have an easier go than I had.
And you got to know the difference between a poetry and writing.
Yes, absolutely. So you have to learn your craft, and that's where I say fall in love with learning because you really have to learn what it is that you're doing and what you're involved with.
And the spoken word, how to formulate your sentences. So you still got to take some kind of English language or to know that literature part of it. Because if you can't write, then how are you going to expect to relate that on stage?
Yes, absolutely.
So what more can we expect from Dwayne coming forward?
I'm always working on some stuff. So I mean, like I said, I have my next book comes out on in December. So that's going to be available for Christmas, Kwanzaa, whatever people might want. You can give the gift of poetry.
So what's the book called?
It's called All That Remains, and it's a collection of poems written in 2020 about all the things that we saw going on in the world, whether it's social justice, whether it's the pandemic, if people went through breakups, how difficult it was to be in a relationship, with social distancing and how many people broke up and all sorts of stuff. So all the stuff that went on in 2020. So it's called All That Remains. And it's
so
just
people broke up during the pandemic for a relationship.
Oh yeah, there's lots of people who broke up because they couldn't see each other. There was
because it can't
distant stuff. There was people who broke up because they saw each other too much, and they couldn't get enough personal space because they were just stuck with this person because they're working from home and you're working from home and there's no way to escape this person who's just around you all the time. So, there's all sorts of things that happen that people experience. So that book is just kind of, reflecting on a lot of that. I also do a show called When Sisters Speak. So next March, it'll be the 21st year for the women's show. And it's very similar to what I do with the men, but that's all women. So
well, you had to do the women's show because people probably heckled you about that and said, hey.
Yeah, so we make sure.
What's that about?
Yeah, create the one for the ladies. And I'm still just constantly writing and creating and trying to do as much as possible. So I'm always working. I always got stuff on the go. So there's
Oh,
always something
well,
coming.
we look forward for that book. So is the book out or is this coming out next month?
That's coming out next month. So,
Okay.
if people, they could go to my website, DwayneMorgan.ca, or on my Instagram, Dwayne_Morgan, and they can just find out more information on how they can get it.
Oh, do you have any shout outs that you want to give anybody?
Well, shout out to you for having me on. Shout out to all of your listeners. And I hope, feel free to get in touch with me if you want to find out about the show. As I said, through my website or Instagram, you can find the link to get tickets to the show. As well, my publicist, Sasha Stoltz, for, all the work she's doing behind the scenes to help get the word out to the show. So, that's it for, shout outs, but definitely thank you. It's been a long time coming, so I appreciate the opportunity.
I know.
For us to actually get to chat.
Where are you going to be doing? I know it's a virtual show, so where are you going to be filming the show from?
So we have a studio downtown Toronto that we will be doing the show from.
Okay.
And we shoot there. So once people buy the tickets, once 8:00 comes on November 27th, there's a thing on the ticket that just says "press here to watch," and you just press, and it brings you right to the link.
Okay.
And
so the artists are actually, so all the artists and people are coming to that studio to actually do it there.
Yeah. The only exception is
them in or something. Okay.
Yeah, the only exception is the gentleman from Las Vegas, because it was just going to be too much.
It's too much. It's a lot of protocol for him, probably. To get over here and stuff.
So everybody else will be live from the studio.
Well, we can't wait to get your book. And you don't have a copy of it there or nothing?
I haven't even seen a copy of it yet. So I don't even have a proof of it.
Proof. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't have the proof.
Well, they better hurry up. It's got to come out for
Yeah, don't worry. We're on it. We're on it. I'm calling my guy tomorrow just to check on the progress. So so we're on it.
So Dwayne, if people want to find you, they can. You just mentioned. Can you just tell them your social medias again?
Yeah. So again, it is DwayneMorgan.ca, DWayneMorgan, and then on Instagram or Twitter, it's Dwayne_Morgan. So DWayne_MORGAN. You can find me on there, and any of those places, it has all of my links. So you can, or you know what, just put my name in Google or whatever, and everything comes up. YouTube, this, that, Spotify, whatever.
Do you answer your people? This one question.
Yes. And I respond to all of the emails. The only thing is I'm rarely on Facebook now, so I always tell people don't message me on Facebook because I'm very rarely there. But Twitter,
I'm on there, but some people do, and that's not a good thing. I tell them to either send me a direct email, that way I know you're serious, or ain't somebody trying to whatever. You know what I mean?
So email, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. I'm there more often. So those are always the best ways to reach me.
All right. Well, Dwayne, it's been a pleasure. Oh my gosh, you got everything out. You didn't expect to get all your stuff out, but you did.
I appreciate it.
We don't rushing. No, because we want to get to know who you are. It's not it's not this rush thing. I can't understand who you are or what you're doing, and then everybody's like, "Oh, she should have asked this, she should have asked that." But we did ask everything.
Right.
All right. So everybody, I do want to thank you again. I want to thank the viewers tonight for watching. Please go support Dwayne with the spoken word. That's right.
When Brothers Speak. Yep.
Yeah. When Brothers Speak, spoken word. Yeah. When Brothers Speak. And, just support that, get your tickets because it's something to see, so this guy is just not somebody just doing it. He's been doing it many decades. So, you got to give kudos to where it gives. So anyways, I do want to thank everybody tonight. So bye for now, everyone.
Take care.